Good afternoon and welcome to the Development Permit Panel on January the 17th, 2024. I will just first introduce the panel members. I'm Cecilia Asham, General Manager for Community Safety. With me today is John Irving, General Manager for Engineering and Public Works, and Peter Russell, Director of Sustainability. And Mr. Wayne Craig and other staff are here from Planning Department to answer questions. And so just a little bit of housekeeping. The panel deals with form and character, not zoning or density. That has already been dealt with by council. Things that we deal with includes parking, variances, the design of the building, access, landscaping, lighting, etc. The agenda today, I'll turn to the agenda first. Can we have a motion to adopt the minutes of the Development Permit Panel meeting held on December 13, 2023?
So moved.
Seconded? Thank you. Anything to add or revise? Okay. Hearing none, minutes adopted. So the first item is DP 20-919145. The applicant is Jonathan King, and it's for a property at 4571, 4591, and 4611, 4631 Steveston Highway. It's for a development permit to permit the construction of 16 townhouse units on the site zone low density townhouse RTL4, and to vary the provision of the zoning bylaw to reduce the front yard setback along Steveston Highway from 6 meters to 4.5 meters. If we could have the proponent do the presentation to start us off. Please identify yourself for the record as well.
Thank you very much. My name is Jiang Zhu. I'm the architect with Imperial Architecture. We are the architect for this development. And I'll share my screen. Could you see the screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much for having us. Today, we want to present the 16-unit townhouse development along Steveston Highway. The project site consists with 3 single-family sites, and it's located on north side of Steveston Highway between Railway and the number 1 road. And during the designing, the design stage, rezoning stage, we worked with the planning department to for the siting and for the forms, and we try to propose something which can be mixed into the local neighborhood in terms of architectural style. And this is the overall site context plan. We proposed 5 buildings on this site, and there are 2 3-story buildings along the Steveston Highway, along the arterial road, and there are 3 duplex 2-story buildings at the back with the driveway in the middle. And as you can see, the streetscape, we proposed a big roof on top, and to treat the level 3 as dormers or attics, although they are really the level 3 over there, but architectural style is compatible with the adjacent buildings over there, and the height is not out of the scale. And these are the calculations, aesthetics. We complied with the bylaw in every aspect, except only for the front yard setback. We propose to relax it from 6 meters to 4.5 meters. The main reason is we gave more space at the back. The bylaw says we only need a 3 meters rear yard setback, but in consideration of the privacy with the single-family housing behind, we propose to increase it to 6 meters, so double the rear yard setback. Meanwhile, we reduce the front yard setback a little bit from 6 meters to 4.5 meters. And again, this is the site plan. During the designing stage, we had a challenge to locate the driveway. It was in the middle, but working with the engineering department, this is the accepted solution over there. And for this site, just for your information, we have some unique features because it's not a rectangular shape site. We have this bump at the back, and the adjacent site was paired with this as well. You can see from here. So in the rezoning stage, we proposed a future development potential plan. Adjacent sites, they can do the mirror image of our development by sharing the driveway. They don't need to have the second driveway. They're going to share the driveway. And then they can have a consolidated, bigger shared outdoor space over there. Outdoor amenity space. Yeah. So for my character, we propose to use the typical so-called West Coast style with hardy panels, with bay windows, with gable roofs as the architectural language for this development. And since we have 5 different buildings, we need to tie these buildings together. Meanwhile, we want to create some differences over there to have it, so each building can have its own identity. One method we used was we proposed red brick cladding on all buildings on all sides. So that is like a base, solid base for all buildings with the same color, same material. Then on the upper floors, we propose to have different colors for hardy panels, and even every 2 adjacent buildings will have a different color schemes over there. We proposed multiple color schemes. And also we went through the shadow analysis and to demonstrate there was no shadow impact to adjacent buildings over there. And we complied with the city's parking bylaw. And most of the units have side-by-side parkings, and only a handful has tandem parkings. However, it is still within the allowed limits by parking bylaw. And this is the future development potential. This is our project. This is the future project. They can do the mirror image and have the shared, consolidated, bigger outdoor space. Because that space, it's not really buildable. When you consider all the setbacks, the buildable area is almost like 0, not even big for a room. And we have the site electrical plan. Every unit in the private garage will have 2 EV chargers. And also we propose some exterior lightings in the common area along the driveway for CDPET considerations, and also in the landscaped area. Landscape architect can elaborate more for the lighting design and the landscape design in the outdoor amenity area. And this is the material sample board. You can see the proposed material is shingle roofing, asphalt shingle roofing, and a different type of hardy panels, cement panel, composite cement panel, and at the base we proposed red brick cladding, not the full brick, but the thin cladding over there, and a double glazing window and vinyl with vinyl frame. Yeah, which is good for energy. Yeah. And this is the color scheme we proposed. So as you can see, we have the scheme A and the scheme B, and with warm tone and cold tone. And we strategically located them. So every 2 adjacent buildings will have a different kind of color scheme over there to make the design more interesting. And this is the sections. We have a 3-story building along the Stevenson Highway. We have the 2-story duplex building against the single-family housing. In the middle, we have the driveway with the 4.6 meters height clearance for garbage truck and also for fire truck to access. And accessibility, all the units will have the ground level access door, which can be easily used for wheelchair people over there. We don't propose any long steps or stairs at the main entry, and the pedestrian can use the shared driveway pedestrian walkway to access all the units, and the outdoor amenity area is fully accessible as well with a ramp designed over there. And we proposed two convertible units fully in compliance with the city's convertible unit design guidelines with the ABCD, and we elaborated on our drawing how we met these requirements over there. And we proposed a future elevator with the shaft built with the floor and the pit designed to suit the future elevator over there. And this is the elevator specs, and landscape design for convertible unit at the back. And the rear yard is accessible as well in the deck. And we engaged the energy consultant JRS to help us with the step code issues, and they have the energy report and elaborated how we can meet the step code requirements over there. Yeah, I think that's all from architectural, and I'll hand it over to our landscape architect, Ethan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ethan, and I am the project landscape architect for this project. Thank you for being here today. For landscape design, I just want to highlight three major things in the landscape. The first is the overall landscape design trying to respect existing set conditions. For example, you see this page, landscape tree management plan. We returned as many existing trees as possible, especially a large group of trees along the north of the property line, and also an evergreen hedge at the northwest corner. So the hedge and the trees will provide green buffers and for our project, and also will protect the privacies for our property and also for the neighbor. Second, we also trying to minimize the existing grading changes in the landscape design. The large outdoor amenity space is located on the existing grade, and we provide a ramp for wheelchair users to access to this outdoor amenity space. Meanwhile, for the buildings close to our north neighbors, each unit will have a private outdoor patio space, but the outdoor patio space is elevated, so the overall backyard is on the same elevation as our north neighbor. So we don't do any grading changes between our property line and our neighbors. So this is how the landscape design respects to the existing set conditions. The second things I want to highlight for the landscape design is how we respect the privacies for our neighbors. Go to the next page, please. Yes, as you can see, as I already mentioned, the evergreen trees and the hedges were returned to ensure the privacy. Meanwhile, between our property and also our eastern neighbors, we have a relatively wide landscape buffers between the building C, building B, and the property line. We propose several evergreen trees in the landscape buffers, so to protect the neighbors' privacy for the eastern neighbors. The third thing I want to mention is the overall landscape design trying to bring nature close to the local residents. We have used a lot of native plant species in our design, so we hope like the local residents can learn about more our native plant species, and so can enjoy to staying with our local nature landscape. The next thing I want to talk about in more details about outdoor amenity space design for this project. Yes, this is an enlargement plan of the outdoor amenity space. the overall areas is a little bit larger than the required outdoor amenity space. Meanwhile, we have provided a variety of outdoor programs for the local residents. As you can tell, we have a relatively large outdoor place areas for the children. Meanwhile, we have a few benches for the parents to sit and watch the children play. In the right-of-way close to our north property line, we keep open lawn areas for multiple flexible programs, either for the children or for their parents. Outdoor lightings are also considered to provide a safe space for people to use them at night. A few back racks is provided at the entrance of the outdoor space, along with a post mailbox. So I believe all these programs will work together to attract people to be more outdoor and enjoying meeting with their neighbors and do more social activities, which I think will benefit the local residents' physical and mental health. Next page, please. Yeah, these are a few sections to show how the relationship between our property and our neighbors and also the outdoor amenity programs. Next page, please. Yes, for the outdoor amenity space, we also consider about the future situations when the west property is developed. So this turn around space at the corners, vehicle turn around areas will not be needed anymore. So we change these turn around areas to be more to be additional outdoor amenity space. We put a couple of composite wood picnic tables and benches on the paved areas. And between the benches and the property line, we also proposed raised wood planters with 3 trees to create landscape buffers between our space and also the neighbor. Next, please. Yes, this is the planting design of the project. As I mentioned, we have used lots of native plant species. I think that's all for landscape design for this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we will next go to staff comments before we have panels ask some questions. So, Mr. Craig, anything to add?
Just a couple of comments, Madam Chair. In terms of the applicant's presentation, the reference to shared amenity space with the potential future development to the west, I just want to clarify that there is no formal sharing arrangement secured as part of this development permit. That was...
Sorry, I just can't hear Wayne. I don't know if it's my mic or my speaker, but
It's very faint. Yeah, it's very faint.
What? I'll see if I can increase
that's better.
To start again, in terms of the applicant's presentation, there was reference to potential shared amenity space with future development to the west. I just want to clarify there is no formal sharing arrangement of outdoor amenity space secured through this development. That is a design intent which may be realized, but there is no formal sharing arrangement between the two potential developments. In terms of the development itself, this is designed to meet Energy Step Code 3 with on-site low-carbon energy systems. There is a servicing agreement for frontage works and site services with this project. This servicing agreement will include the provision of turning restrictions within the driveway to ensure right in, right out turning movements. The front yard setback variance was identified at time of rezoning. There was also an acoustical report provided confirming that the units will meet CMHC internal noise standards given the proximity to the road and traffic along Steveston Highway. There is cross-access secured to both the west and east of this site as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Wayne. We'll start with panel questions. Who wants to start? Okay, please, John.
I may, thank you. Not much. I just had just through the presentation, I noticed there the two buildings you have fronting Steveston Highway. It appears Building B is taller. They look identical otherwise, so could you just describe what's going on there or what's driving that?
Yes, yeah. The very slight differences over there. The design intention is not to have the mirror image as per the city's design guideline for this type of projects, and the roof profile is a little bit different because I'll share my screen maybe. Yeah. So some units are the same, but the end units, this end, the west end of building A is different, and the east end of building B is different. Therefore, the design is slightly different over there because of the roof geometry. However, it is still within the zoning bylaw height limitation over there.
Okay, so it's just an aesthetic treatment to provide some bright.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had one question, Madam Chair, and it's I don't know if it's landscaped, but I'm just looking at the entrance from the highway, and is it only a right in, right out turn on the highway? Is that a policy of ours? I'm not sure. I just haven't encountered been involved in too many Steveston highway projects. So you can't do a left turn if you're eastbound into the site?
Sure, yes. Due to the proximity and the road, this does have turning restrictions. There are some instances where townhouse development does have those turning restrictions. Steveston Highway is quite common that we limit driveway access to right in, right out.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. One is I do appreciate relocating some of the existing vegetation and keeping the grades the same for the adjacent neighbor. It looks like there's quite a lot of care put in place for that. There seems to be quite a lot of paving as these projects have. Can somebody comment on whether you have made some effort to incorporate some pervious areas, as in pavings and such, into the driveways?
Yes. For the driveway, the city fire department has a very strict requirement for 80,000 pounds of load over there. Therefore, we normally use asphalt to comply with that requirement. However, during the design stage, planning stage, we worked with the planning department to introduce some pavers. They are permeable pavers, and with the special civil design, the base layers and everything, they can still support the fire truck load over there. And it's a common treatment for this type of townhouse projects over there. So if you can see from this drawing, only this light gray area is the asphalt, and this is paver, and this is paver with different colors to identify the common area, like access to the outdoor amenity and access to the vehicle main entry. And this denotes a little bit quieter space for residential use. However, the different color band of pavers were used to signify the pedestrian paths over there to all the main entries.
Thank you, appreciate that. And the visitor parking spaces in between the buildings, are those paver base or are they concrete asphalt base?
I think they're pavers, yeah.
Yeah, I can answer the questions. So all the visitor parking, they all permeable pavers. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And Mr. Craig, this is a question to staff. All the tree retention and removal that has already been dealt with at rezoning, we are not dealing with that here, correct?
Yes, Madam Chair, that is correct. Tree retention was addressed at rezoning. All required replacement trees are being accommodated on
Thank you very much. Any further questions from the panel? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Clerk, is there anybody in the chamber from the public to comment or ask questions?
There's nobody in council chambers.
Thank you. Is there any written submission?
There's none, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So in that case, there is a positive recommendation from staff, and generally I think that the design has taken into consideration future developments on both sides by allowing cross-access agreement and respected the neighbors to the north by giving extra setbacks. So I'm happy to support the front yard setback as well. With that, does anybody else want to make some final comments before we put this to a vote?
Just echo that.
Yeah, likewise, I just wanted to also note the high performance on zero carbon with the electric boiler addition to the heat pump.
Okay, with that, can I have somebody move the staff's positive recommendation?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. You've got the approval.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. We'll give a minute for the second development application to do the setup. While I read out the application, is for development permit 21-943418, and the applicant is Carla Castellanos Architect, and the property location is 13888 Wireless Way, and it is for a development permit to permit the construction of a 3-story light industrial and ancillary office building on a new lot created through a subdivision of the western portion of the subject site at 13888 Wireless Way. The site is currently zoned Industrial Business Park, Crestwood area, East Canby. And the variance that's being sought is to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 2.8 spaces to 0.75 spaces for each 100 square meters of gross leasable floor area of building on Lot 1, which is the newly created lot, to reduce the minimum required number of large-sized on-site designated loading space on Lot 1 from 1 space to 0 space, and to reduce the minimum percentage of standard parking spaces on Lot 2, the residual lot, from 50% to 30%. With that, I will ask the proponent to identify himself or herself and to start with sharing the screen and making the presentation.
Hello, everybody. My name is Carla Castellanos from KCC Architecture. I'm coming down with a flu, so I'm going to just hide myself a little bit, but I can still do the presentation. I'm going to ask Emily from my team to share the screen, please. If you can go play, Emily, please. Thank you. So today I would like to make the presentation for a subdivision and new development application. In reality, it's not the subdivision at this time, but it's a development permit based on the subdivision of an existing property with an existing building. Next slide, please. We've, for my own purposes and for keep the panel clear as to how are we moving forward, we have a little bit of introduction table of context with introduction, project context, design proposal, landscape, and renderings. Next one. For the introduction of the project, thank you. Next one. The project is located in a mainly industrial area with a business park development. Our project follows the initiative issued by the city a few months, actually last year or 2 years ago, to redensify industrial land. It's located very near the Westminster Highway, between the major arteries of King Street and number 6 Road. You can see the location of our development there. Next slide. Next slide. For the project context, as I was mentioning before, our project is located mainly within the areas of industrial development, business park, industrial, and very close to the Richmond Auto Sales Center. Our main traffic will go through New Westminster Highway, number 6 Road, and 9th Street. Our project is zoned under set I3, which is Industrial Park Development. Next slide. The applicable policies and guidelines, as you can see here, there are climate action programs, community energy and emissions plans, development permit guidelines, flood protection management strategy from 2019, official community plan, and waste management design guidelines. Next slide. Going into the design proposal, our proposal is to redevelop this existing site through a subdivision application, generating a new lot. The new building will house 3 stories, with the first 2 stories being multi-tenant industrial unit. The ground floor will be the main a warehouse, if we can call it, or a working area, with the second story being for office space, and the third story is for additional office space in the area. The building form and character follow strictly what the existing building has. It mimics quite a bit the harmony, but also the articulation between the units and the colors. So the intent is not to create something that it will inspire contrast, but it's the opposite. It will mimic, and it will feel it's an extension of the existing building. Next slide. The accessibility strategy that we have is on the north side, facing Wireless Way, which is on the top of the sheet from this floor plan. There is an access, a pedestrian access into the main. So for clarity of the panel, lot 2 is existing, lot 1 is new. There is the property line, the new subdivision is right in between these 2 buildings. This is so unfortunately that I cannot share my screen, but in between the 2 buildings, on the left side, which is lot 1, is a new development. On the right side, as I mentioned before, the existing building. There is no intention to have any a barrier between the 2 lots. Both lots currently are owned by the same developer. So the intent is to, following, as I said before, redensify the industrial lots and provide more space for potential tenants. For the accessible strategy, as I mentioned before, from the top of the page, Wireless Way, there is an access point into the site. We'll go into more detail in a second, and connects right away with the main sidewalk adjacent to the new proposed building. For the existing building, as part of this development permit application, we're also providing another access on the right top corner. If you can see there is a hatch between the parking spaces. That is the pedestrian access that we are creating from Wireless Way to connect to the existing pedestrian walkway. In terms of the sustainability, we have the intent of this building is to be built with tilt-up construction. This is quite used construction in materials for industrial buildings. The existing building, by the way, is also tilt-up. We're contemplating to have insulated panels to provide a more efficient energy performance for the entire building. And we will have double glazing glass units, which will also provide a good efficiency, high efficiency equipment for performance. And Given that these are going to be tenant units, we're going to provide the minimum lighting and minimum heating and cooling. Every tenant will need to apply for a separate building permit application to outfit their own space. But as much as we can contemplate at this time, we are following energy performance strategies. Next slide. So in terms of the building setbacks and the legal of the property, I think this is a better slide to represent where we are proposing the subdivision between the two lots. And to clarify a little bit, there is a jog in the proposed new property line. And this is just to reflect the spatial separation that it will be required to retain the existing windows on the existing building on the west side. So again, we're trying not to create any higher impact to the existing facility and redensify the site. Next slide. So we have developed project statistics for both sites. The existing site in relationship to parking spaces, it had above and beyond what it was required. So with this new development, we are not, the intent is not to remove the parking that is required by zoning in the existing building. Next slide. Again, a little bit more project statistics. If you can see there, the top plan is the floor plan. So on the right-hand side, the unit, we have the main lobby to access the level 3, but also we have kind of the corner unit with the mechanical and electrical rooms, and then very standard units from there to the west side of the building with separate entrances. Each unit from level 1 and level 2 will be completely independent in a way. And then level 3 will share, as you can see on the bottom floor plan, a common corridor in the back of the building, which it will serve access to all the units up front. It's worth to mention that the intent is to provide, if a tenant buys, let's say, a unit, an industrial unit, it will include the level 1 and a mezzanine on level 2, as you can see on the middle floor plan. However, if they require additional office, they can connect the unit to gain more office space on the third level, which is still independent from everybody else. So there is also, we're trying to build this facility with flexibility. So the tenants that come, they can actually mold their own space, which in my view, this is already pushing a little bit the boundaries of sustainability to trying to make a building as flexible and useful as it can be. Next slide. The site plan, just to run you through, from the top wireless way facing the street, we have the main access to the site on the right-hand side. We explored the option of providing a separate access for the new proposed lot. However, given the circulation of the site, the security, and the strategy that the client wants to, how he wants to market not only this new building, but the complex in its own, the decision was to keep only one access point, which it will be the existing access through the existing site. As I mentioned before, the parking is basically shared. There is no boundary between the two developments. And I also want to mention that on the bottom of the page, which is the south end of the property, there is environmental sensitive area. Currently, that area is completely used for parking. There is no islands, there is no treatment to that area. As part of this development, we have worked with planning to enhance that area and to provide more green space across both sites, not only the new addition. So as you can see there on the south end of the building, we have incorporated some islands in between the parking spaces to enhance that sensitive environmental area. And in the new lot, in the new property that we are creating, the new environmental area is completely landscaped. The function of the site, we're not anticipating having a more than 2-ton truck, 3-ton truck. We want to be, the client wants to be sensitive as to who is, because the use of the existing building is for office space only. So we don't want to create traffic that doesn't relate to the office building, or it could be destructive for the function of the existing building. So we're minimizing, by sizing the tenant improvements in a small units, we are minimizing the amount of trucks and the amount of the size of trucks that this site will have. There is parking in front of the units, where the intent is each unit on the ground floor will have an overhead door. The overhead door can be completely open, and then the tenant can park right in front of their overhead door to download or upload any product. At the south end of the new building, we have provided the garbage facility with the garbage collection space, loading space, and right beside it, there is a loading space as well for to provide additional service to the tenants. Next slide. This would be an enlarged, a little bit more detailed floor plan. If we take any unit in the middle, let's say the fourth one from the left to right, we have the overhead door. We have an independent entrance with a little vestibule. You come up the stairs and you go to the mezzanine above. Underneath the stairs, there is going to be an accessible washroom for each tenant. And the floor below, you will see we have the little mezzanines above where you can fit 2 office spaces, 1 office space with a boardroom, and the stair which has access to the floor below. The next slide. We have on the 3rd level, as you can see, independent units for office space. We have provided the stair to connect this office space to the mezzanine below. However, this will be optional for each tenant as they desired. We have also done the study at the roof level to identify where the potential rooftop units or air conditioning units can be located. And based on our analysis from the street, they should be located in the middle of the building, and we will provide a proper screening for any mechanical equipment. Next slide. These are the elevations of the building. As I mentioned before, we are carrying a lot of the language of the existing building into the new building. One of the quite challenging design components of this new building is precisely that west building view. We are, to maximize the building layout and building footprint, we have, our strategy was to place the building right at the property line, and it's creating this flat facade at the property line. As we know, we cannot have any windows opening to a neighboring site, but we have decided, my team and I, the approach that we've taken is to treat that wall with different textures. Again, this is going to be tilt-up construction. Tilt-up, when it could actually have many patterns within the tilt-up, which they're quite appealing to the eye. So our intent is to create an interesting pattern with interesting colors to mitigate that flat screen view from the neighboring site. Next one. The building is quite narrow and long. These are the 2 main views from the street and from the environmental sensitive area. Next one. This is a section to maybe the section number 2 at the bottom of the page. You can see a bit more graphically what we're trying to accomplish, which is the ground floor will have an open space, being the back of the unit a little bit higher, so they can have some racking if needed, or higher equipment if needed. Then we will have the mezzanine, and the third level is used for office space with the corridor mechanical equipment in the middle. So this is to represent what I have been describing. Next one. So we are, to accomplish what we're proposing, we are requesting 3 variances. The first one is to reduce the number of parking spaces from 2.8 spaces to 0.75. The reasoning behind this is, again, the initiative that the city has issued for industrial sites and industrial use sites, where the reduction of parking spaces, considering that this is not a retail, that this is not a commercial use, and not necessarily a full office space. And again, this is based on the initiative the city published. The second one is we're also requesting to combine one loading space. The new building requires 2 loading spaces. We are requesting a variance to combine one loading space with the garbage parking area. If you see on the south end of the building, which will be the bottom of the page, that big rectangle there, you see the gray rectangular at the bottom of the building, that's the garbage parking space, let's say, when they upload. So there could be a strategy developed by the Strata, where the garbage pickup can come at certain day, at certain time, and all the tenants will be notified of this, and they cannot use that loading space for one day, let's say, during the week. However, the other 4, 5, 6 days, they can actually use this space. And the next variance that we're requesting is the existing building on the right lot 2. The existing building, we really are not trying to change the building or mitigate its function. However, when it was built, we can only have, with all honesty, just the survey plan. So when we went to the survey plan and we started counting the parking spaces, some of these parking spaces, given in the original design, they were not assigned as small spaces. But once we started measuring and putting together our plan, we realized that based on what is existing, more than 50% of the parking spaces in the existing site don't meet the new standards for a general parking space. Now, I want to notify that this hasn't been really a problem for the use of the existing building. However, for the intent of this development permit application, we had to identify the number of parking spaces that they don't follow or meet the new zoning requirements. And therefore, we need to request for a variance for the number of small parking spaces in the existing building, instead of being 30% to be 50%. Next slide. The materiality of the building, as I mentioned before, we're mainly utilizing tilt-up construction, insulated panels, very durable to any type of weathering in BC. But we will have some accent, for example, all those panels that we saw, the canopies and the panels, what we call the feature panels in the building, they will have metal cladding, and we are here representing the colors of what we're proposing for the building, which it will be very monochromatic. Next one. We also provided the shadow study. Based on our study, this will not have truly any impact on adjacent buildings. Next one. And I'm going to let Clark to speak to the landscape drawing. Next one.
Thank you, Carla. Clark Cavalinas, landscape architect on the project. I'm just going to make 3 quick points with respect to landscaping on this particular project. First point is in front of the new building that would be on the east side where the parking is. We've broken up the parking with some landscape and treed islands to give it some relief from the parking and the asphalt in that area. Second point I would like to make, and Carla made it earlier, is along the south property line. We have within the RMA setback, we have provided for native plants, all indigenous, all native plants and native plantings, a buffer of natural plants to separate us from the environmental area to the south. Third point is on the east side of lot 2, which is the east side of the total site. We've are going to plant a row of trees to give it some relief along the parking there, and also we've cut. We're going to do some cut into the existing asphalt in the existing parking to provide 3 trees to give it some more relief on that side as well. Small note, footnote is off Wireless Way, where the pedestrians access north of the proposed new building is where we'll have some bike racks for people to ride their bikes to work and park their bikes. And that's basically it for the landscaping. And it's very simple, very clean, very simple design. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. The next slide, please, just to wrap up the next one. So this is, I just want to complete, thank you, Clark, I mentioned that, I think. Just to wrap up the presentation, you can see the 2 volumes being obviously the white one, the existing building, the new one with colors, the proposed new building. We have taken into consideration the code requirements for a spatial separation between the 2 buildings, the accessibility, car accessibility, pedestrian accessibility, fire truck, and a garbage truck. So with this, I would like to finish our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for the very thorough presentation. Does staff have anything to add?
Just a couple of comments. There is a servicing agreement for frontage works required as a condition of this application. That servicing agreement is tied to the building permit application. In terms of the riparian management area that exists along the southern edge of the site, there will be a invasive plant removal within that area. There will be a 3-year monitoring period over the planting within that RMA area. There will be a ALR buffer covenant registered as a condition of this application, as the ALR does exist on the south side of Westminster Highway. The project also includes provision of solar PVs for on-site electricity generation. Approximately 40% or just under 40% of the roof of the proposed building is intended to be occupied with solar PVs. I'd like to thank the applicant for their efforts to address sustainability, not only in terms of the RMA restoration and enhancement, but also the use of solar PVs.
Thank you, Wayne. Open to panel questions.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I got a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I guess just on the park, and appreciate what you're doing. It's great to see asphalt turned into usable industrial space and returned to RMA. But this isn't a stratified building you're proposing, is it? Or is it?
Yes, it will be.
Okay, and so how many units?
We have, I want to say 13 units, but you give me 2 seconds.
11 units, actually. It's Ellen here. Hi.
Oh,
it's 11 units, yeah.
Yeah.
So the 3-story, I thought maybe the top story were those separate units, or they're all?
Oh, no, they're one single unit. They're three-story, but all one single unit, and rooftop, that's why they all have their own solar panels. That's
right.
Necessary with BC Hydro for each individual unit.
Okay. So 13 units, and then you're providing...
No, 11 units.
11
units.
Yeah.
So, almost 3 parking spots per unit. Is that right?
Yes, average, I think, yeah, around that, yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's, I'm certainly no fan of producing surplus parking, and maybe it's for staff. And appreciate with the design. Okay, obviously you're going to be able to use the existing parking lot on lot 1, or is it 2?
Plus, we have shuttle. We have shuttle service. We provide shuttle service from the thing, and then we have a few years of transit pass as well to each individual unit. So there is a shuttle service that will operate 10 trips a day to the Bridgeport station, 5 in the morning and 5 in the late afternoon. Yeah, it's a free shuttle.
Okay, and that operation is getting encoded on the property by Covenant or something, or?
Yes, it is actually.
Maybe if I can interject.
Sure.
Sorry, I did not get into tremendous detail, but in terms of the 3 parking variances that are associated with this project, those variances were reviewed and accepted by the city's transportation department. Part of the transportation demand management package that is provided to offset those variances is the provision of a 3-year transit pass program for tenants of the new building or owners of the new building, depending on whether these strata units are sold, and the provision of a shuttle as indicated by the applicant to bring people to the Canada Line station. Those commitments are secured by way of legal agreement and will run for a minimum of 3-year period.
Okay, great. So we're going to this really modern standard with those, non-single occupant vehicle solutions, which sounds great. So going to the other side, why can't we reclaim the full RMA on the other lot with similar provisions?
I'm not sure whether that question is directed at staff or at the applicant. From the
Whoever's got an answer.
From staff perspective, the adjacent site to the existing building, the parking that is provided is required to service that site. We are improving the RMA through the removal of the invasive species within the existing planting area, and we are also adding additional planting area within the RMA in terms of landscape islands that will be connected. So we are removing some parking stalls within the area of the existing building, just not all of the parking stalls.
Okay, but on a square footage ratio, so for the proposed building, you've got 32 stalls proposed to service whatever the square footage is, or 3,800 square meters. And then lot 2, just crunching numbers in my head, 5 times bigger.
The existing building is an office building, not a industrial building, so the parking requirements are higher.
And if maybe I could jump in, channeling Joe a little bit, the existing lot 2, they are not, we are treating this as a subdivision, so really that's an existing lot. And we are really dealing with what is on lot A. It's just by the nature that these 2 lots belong to the same developer rather than, a new owner that we will be even having this conversation. So just to keep that in mind.
Okay, I think there's maybe more we could do there, regardless, but I appreciate the answer in terms of the office use on that. Yeah, okay.
So, John, sorry if I just may even share a little bit. When we started working with Symphony, my client, they were looking to add 2 buildings into this site. And we kind of play around a little bit with the arrangement of the site, etc. And because of its complexity, and of course financial and support, etc., they decided to move ahead with 1 building. So they don't want to kind of minimize the potential for in the future to subdivide again this property for the, on the, not the west, but the east side of this property to add another building, another component. It might be a complete different use that we're even thinking about, a very high-end gym or, just kind of something that can support the two other uses, is sort of a community center, et cetera, right? So also for this purpose, I think the intent is not to just leave the minimum parking requirements for the existing building. So there is still potential to have a future development on this site, the remaining site or the existing site, right?
Sure, I appreciate that. I'm just connecting the dots. Like if you're going to more extreme, or let's say alternative treatments, which I think are very positive, use of shuttles and things like that to eliminate the need for additional parking. Well, why wouldn't we do that elsewhere to support returning ESA to what an RMA should be? But I appreciate that answer, so that's fine. Thanks. But for future reference, for sure.
Of course, yes. Thank you.
Peter, any questions from you?
Yeah, just one. I just note the 10% parking spaces on lot 1 are equipped with energized outlets for level 2, I'm assuming. What is the thinking or strategy on how those would be located? I'm assuming the frontage parking for each of these units are not dedicated. It's wouldn't be allocated per se, or just wondering how you intend to allocate 10% of these energized stalls.
Yeah, so what we've done actually for another project there in Richmond that it seems to work fairly well is we will provide a rough-in for a vehicle charging station in front, related to each unit. I'm not going to say it right in front of it, but related to each unit, and each tenant will have the opportunity to place it themselves if they need it, right?
So that's 1 per unit.
Yes.
So that's higher than 10%, I believe. How many new stalls are there?
Give me 2 seconds. So we have 32 parking spaces. So it's a bit more than 10% of, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Okay, maybe that could be clarified.
Sure, yes.
By building permit or whatnot. I think the 1 per unit makes a lot of sense. So that might change your ratio there.
Yeah, I'll confirm with my client, like for the other building, that's what we did to give this the fair amount, but it was only the rough-in, to be quite honest. We didn't provide the station itself.
Can I interrupt a bit? I just want to understand the question. You mean to have 1 EV ready for each unit? Is that what you're saying?
No,
yes, we are providing that. That's all.
Yeah, we are doing that. So
Sorry, I'm live from Symphony Hill as well.
Okay, so the intention is of the 10 units, each one will have a roughed-in in front of that.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I think all I'm saying is that your 10% is you're probably underselling it. So maybe just as advisement to staff, that could be clarified by the time building approval, because I think your percentage is likely higher.
Yeah,
we are providing more. Yes.
Yeah,
we are providing more, and there's indoor end of trip bike facility in each unit as well.
Right.
Yeah. So we have all those, all the.
That's great. I think it's and you're subject to in-stream provisions, I believe, on this project. Our current new standards would be higher, but you're not required to do those at this time. But I think clarifying exactly where they're located and the percentage would be great.
Okay, we actually planning to do that, so I think it'll be more than 1, but we will finalize that. But definitely we will want to do something like that, as many as we can. So
yeah, demand will be high. I'm
a solar guy, so very much that's my other business in the Philippines. So I mean solar power. So I very much believe in this.
Excellent.
Can you bring some Filipino sunshine over here?
Oh yeah, I love that. I'm not from the Philippines, but you know, I do that, and I find that like in this case, we saved the tenant an average about 7 months of power, so that's a lot. You know, it's over 300,000 over 40 years, and the technology has changed so much. It's amazing.
Great.
And I think this will be the first in Richmond that has that. So I'm excited myself. And we're going to change the whole site with solar power and even with our outdoor lighting. So we're going to start doing that in April or May, replacing the lights with solar panels and stuff. So just the outdoor parking.
Well, we'll
It's
certainly
great.
follow up with you
Yeah.
then.
It's great to hear such enthusiasm, music to our ears. But in the interest of time, given that it's has been a very thorough presentation, I'm not going to add to the questions. Is there anybody from the public in the chamber to comment on this application or any letters?
There's no one in council chambers.
Any letters?
We have no letters.
No letters, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to move straight into panel deliberation. It's a very intricate, it looks simple on the outside, but there's a lot of thought that's been put into this design, and so we really appreciate that. It will be a good showcase for densifying industrial site, one of the many ways to do it going forward. So staff has a positive recommendation, so if somebody could move the recommendation.
So moved.
Seconder? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Good luck with the project. We'll be watching it.
Thank you.
So much.
I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Wayne. Thanks. Oops.
So,
Thanks, Cynthia. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
So we'll just let the third item get set up. The third item for panel today is development permit 22-021165. The applicant is 0853803 BC Limited and 1121648 BC Limited. The property is located at 6571 and 6591 number 1 road. And the permit is to permit the construction of 8 townhouse units on the site. And the site is zoned for low-density townhouse RTL4, and to vary the provision of the minimum required lot width on major arterial road from 50 meters to 40.2 meters. So, excuse me, if the applicant could take it away, introduce himself or herself, and share screen, please.
Oh, hi. Good afternoon. My name is Eric from Eric Law Architect. I'm the project architect for this townhouse project at 6571 and 6591 number 1 road in Richmond. So I'm going to do a very brief presentation of the townhouse project. And as you can see in my screen, let me start with the context. So the site is along number 1 road, and there are 2 lots together within this development. And the context of this content of the site is along number 1 road. You can see along the street scape here that there are 3-story neighbor townhouse project on the south side, and then we got right now we have only a single family house within the whole site, the 2 lot. One of the lot is vacant right now, and then the next to the north is a single family house, and further away to the north the 2-story townhouse, neighbor townhouse project. On the opposite side is all the single family, 2-story single family house. So in terms of context, you can see that this is a residential from 3-story on the south and 3-story townhouse on the west towards a lower 2-story townhouse and some of them with the single family house. With that concept in mind, the context in mind, what our design rationale is that we will do actually 3 blocks of townhouses with access on the north. The reason why we put the row on the north is to serve the 6551 on the north so that they can share our road for their future development. And the whole road is registered as a right of way to them so that in the future they can develop by their own lot and we can share the drive out with them. And for the massing of the townhouse is basically we provide 3-story, basically 3-story of the back, which responds to the back is 3-story high townhouses, and the south is also 3-story townhouse at the south. But although these two blocks facing number 1 row townhouse are designed as sort of a duplex. Even though it's a 3-story high, but because of we berm the landscape a little bit and the road is lower, so from the outside along number 1 row is looking like a 2-story building, similar to the neighbor building, similar to the townhouse, similar to the single-family house opposite side number 1 row and the next door neighbor. So if you can see from the perspective here, it's basically it looks like the massing. It looks like to be a single-family house with duplex form. And in this aerial view, you can see that clearly that they got 2 duplex and the 3-story townhouse at the back, and along with the townhouse adjacent, and the next door is a single-family house. So in terms of the massing, basically we consider the massing to be compatible to the surrounding neighbor, and the other one is that we provide raise the backyard to match the neighbor townhouse on the west side. So architecturally, is basically you can see the form and design is a pitch roof with a window, which is basically is matched to the typical residential townhouses or single-family house. The finishes is also we use the finishes is also with brick at the bottom, which is a typical residential feel appearance, and the hardy siding and the roof with pitch roof. So basically, again, is the design that try to be consistent with the context around it. And in terms of the vehicular access, we do have the access from the number 1 row on the north, and then we come down to the end of the drive out. We have the children playground and the visitor parking along at the back. And the second story, we can see that this is 4 unit at the back, 3-story high, but the front we call it brick in the front of the 2 townhouse project to basically give it to become a duplex. And there's a form and with a pitch roof. It basically is the is single-family house look. And in terms of the accessibility, we have one which has a for the future disabled access, because for this particular unit that we allow for a elevator, future elevator to be inside the unit, so that in the future they can be retrofit with the elevator, become a convertible unit to allow for all the accessibility for this unit. And for this townhouse, we are going to meet the energy step code 3 with low carbon system. Basically, we are using the heat pump system for heating and cooling for this whole project. And for the this is all the siding and the finishes, the color, which is the material siding brick at the bottom. And the landscape, basically, as you can see from the landscape drawing here, that we got permeable paver around some of the edge, and then we got a children play equipment on the south side, which is a part of this small play area. All the landscape also along this side, along the number 1 row, is a berm. So basically, it's slope up a little bit, so that when you look at the along number 1 row, this becomes almost feel like a two-story building instead of 3-story building. So for the other landscape, I'm going to ask our landscape architect to do a presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Eric. My name is Ewan Ran. I'm from the PMG Landscape Architect. So as Eric said, our landscape is trying to create large landscape for each unit. So we can see for each unit's yard, we have big open long area for family or kids running through. Each yard we have one trees. Also at the end, at the side entrance and the end of the road, we use a permeable paver to mark these key points of the road. As Eric said, the play equipment is located on the south side of the site. We're choosing this comprehensive play equipment to ensure there will be numerous kids to play at the same time. There's a bench next to the play equipment, so the parents can look after the kids. So in total, we have we propose nine trees and hundreds of the shrubs and the grass integrating with the native plants on this project. Lastly, all the soft landscape will be irrigated for this project. That's all for landscape point.
Yeah, one thing just want to say is that there's for the whole site, basically there's only one tree that we're going to remove because the arborist said that structurally this is going to die anyway, and but it's safe. And there's another one off-site. It's not within our site. This one has already died. So basically, technically we only remove one, but with the neighbor that tree on the north side, we are providing almost like 4 replacement tree, and 5 additional to that, we got 5 new trees within our site. And I think this concludes our presentation.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Craig, any staff comments?
A couple quick comments. There is a servicing agreement associated with this project for frontage works and site services. In terms of the variance, that is a technical variance based on the site assembly. That variance was identified at time of rezoning when council endorsed the rezoning application.
Okay, thank you. For the time for the panel's questions, John and Peter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, maybe you could just describe for me the grading. From what I'm seeing on the plans, it looks like this is sunk lower than the adjacent properties.
Yeah.
Is that the case, and why are we doing that?
Yes, the grading is that there's the existing row, existing number 1 row that goes down to around 1.0 meter. That is the 1.0 meter is the elevation is basically what we have right now. So we are not going down anymore. We are just keeping the same level, although the number 1 row is higher. But the other one is at the back. Basically, what happened is that the back neighbor, their yard level is higher at 2.22 meter. But then there is also a jog or recess within their site. So what happened is that we all agree that we have already agreed with the neighbor that we will backfill the back level to match the neighbor yard, so that our yard will be the same level as the neighbor, and then our our unit will also goes down. The back unit will go down to the rear yard for their recreation or leisure enjoyment. The other reason, actually there are a few reasons. One of the reasons why we do that is that because this site has a floodplain level, which is somewhere about this level, and the lower level we cannot have any residential or dwelling unit below the floodplain level. That's why we put the parking on the bottom. And one of the reasons also is that if you look at our site plan, let me show you the site plan. Oh yes, yeah. Is that we are intended to provide the access to the north neighbor so that they can develop their townhouse in the future. In order to do that, we have to match the existing level. So the road right now going down, this level 1.0 closely match to the next door neighbor, so that they can easily go around to access the north neighbor instead of going up or down to the ramp. That's why we retain the road elevation as roughly as 1.0 meter at their level, so that it facilitate future extension to the north, as well as to serve the parking. And then because the parking is on the lower level, the second and the third level can be used as residential, which is above the floodplain level. And that's the reason why we do this grading like this. And one of the good things is also because we raise the living room a little bit higher, then you can have a landscape burn around this area, so that, as you can see in the perspective, the apparent height of the townhouse facing number 1 road will be lower and looks like a 2-story duplex instead of 3-story building. I hope that explains the rationale why we do this grading.
Yeah, okay, well that's just raised more concerns for me if part of the intent is to hardwire a similar lower grade for the lot to the north. Mm-hmm. That's even more problematic. I mean, just wearing my engineering hat, and appreciate your meeting the letter requirements of the bylaw with regards to flood grades, but we have a lot of problems with lots that are lower than the road like this, especially with climate change and increasing storm intensity, atmospheric rivers. The storm system in the street's only designed to handle what used to be the 10-year storm. Now it's really probably the 5 or 2-year storm. So, I mean, unfortunately, in this design configuration, from an engineering point of view, I would not be surprised to see this parking level flood once every 2 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. So that, unfortunately, for me is not something we could saddle future owners with. And we're not just talking floodwaters, we're talking potentially sewage as well. And we've had this actually occur on similarly designed lots previously. So I have significant concerns with that. I think we need to correct that to make sure for the drive aisle and the parking level that there's at least natural positive drainage to the road rather than the reverse. That would be my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I think that's something that we could direct staff to take back. That is something that is possible to do, Mr. Craig? If you're speaking, we can't hear you, Wayne.
Through the chair, in terms of options available to the panel, one option would be to refer the application back to staff with direction to increase site grade. I believe that is effectively what Mr. Irving was referring to. That would allow the applicant sufficient time to look at how that might be accomplished, whether that would drive any architectural changes The other option would be for the panel to endorse the permit with direction that site grading be amended prior to the application being presented to City Council for consideration. Primary difference with this option would be the panel would not see how site grade is manipulated. It would also limit the applicant's ability to make other changes to the overall buildings as a result of grade changes.
Yeah, given the potential changes that may be required, I would suggest that we go with option 1 if the other panel members concur.
I'm sorry, I got confused on option
So
one.
option one is we ask them we send it back, refer it back to staff, and then bring it back to panel when it is ready.
Yes, I think that's appropriate because this could, certainly don't want to create any more work or trouble for the applicant than necessary, but obviously making that change would drive, I think, a whole bunch of other changes potentially that might make it problematic to simply do under direction. So a referral back is what I would support.
Okay. In the meantime, if we could get other panel members' comments in as well, in case there are other things to look at. Peter, you have anything else?
Not of substance. I was curious about the step code application, how the boilers would be treated, if it's going to be electric or gas boilers for, you note the heat pump, but just curious about how the intention for the rest of it.
Oh, the mechanical system will be basically, let me show you this one. Well, the mechanical system will be will be electrical hot water tank, which is located on the second level, above the floodplain level. So all the equipment will be on the second level instead of the ground level. So and the system, the building will be heating will be by heat pump system, but the hot water tank will be basically is an electrical hot water tank.
Yeah, I think if going back to staff might bring you the opportunity to put the equipment at grade potentially. So I think that's worthwhile to go back for review as well.
Okay. I don't have any additional comments. I think, we'll end up seeing this development again when it comes back to address the grade issue. Is there anybody in the chamber to comment?
No, there is not.
Madam Clerk, thank you. And Rustico, is there any written letters for this one? I believe there's one.
Yes, Madam Chair, we did receive one letter for this application.
If I may, Madam Chair, we did receive one piece of correspondence. It is from Shiraz Mohammed and his wife, who are the owners of the adjacent property to the north. Their correspondence primarily deals with the land use, i.e. the installation of townhouses on this property. The land use is outside the purview of the panel, given that council has granted third reading to the rezoning application.
Okay, thank you. So that just to clarify, the panel cannot really deal with a land use issue, and that's already been dealt with. So with that, I think I'm going to just move to refer this back to staff, excuse me, to work with the applicant to address the grading issue as described by Mr. Irving, and then when it's ready, come back to panel. If I could get a mover on that.
So moved.
Seconder?
Seconded.
All those in favor of the recommendation? Okay. Mr. Craig and Eric, sorry, back to the drawing board. Okay. All right. With that, the last couple items on the agenda, is there any new business, Mr. Craig?
There's no new business, Madam Chair, but there are no agenda items scheduled for the meeting currently scheduled on January 31st. That meeting can be canceled by a resolution from the panel.
Okay, can I have a mover for that? Okay, second I see. So, the meeting is canceled. And can I move for adjournment?
So moved.
Thank you. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.